at the tip of the iceberg. There are many other areas where you find. I told you about a place called Mavuso, for an example.
Sure.
A few years ago in Pretoria, there was no outrage about that place. And yet the immorality that was going on in that place, and yet we want to see and mobilize communities, because in the absence of structures and communities taking place, this war against substance abuse and drugs will not be won by government only.
Maybe just before my colleague comes in, the issue of gatherings and sort of COVID-19 regulations being relaxed as well. Do you think that has contributed to the crisis? We're seeing more gatherings, more people, coming to these places of enjoyment in the evening, such as the taverns and nightclubs as well.
Even though the regulations have been lifted, you know that our experts have already said there's a caution to it, that it is in your hands. If you get to a very crowded place, I mean, if I go to a plane, I still wear my mask. If I go, I've never been to a club for about months and so on. So if you go to a crowded place, you've got to make sure, because COVID is still with us. You still hear every day about the numbers of people who are infected with COVID deaths and so on. So it does not mean that people will go to stadium and therefore everything. That's why even those who go to crowded places, they are vaccinated.
Mr. Kodwa, Criselda Lewis from SABC Television News. I have to ask you, I see you've already articulated on the issue of the mourning and how this can be avoided going forward. I have to ask you about, do we know if a date has been set for President Cyril Ramaphosa to appear before the ANC's Integrity Committee on the issue of Phala? And do you know if at all he has spoken to the Hawks regarding perhaps his statement? I know that Mr. Arthur Fraser has, it's public knowledge, he has given his statement to the Hawks.
What I cannot confirm is whether the law institutions, law enforcement, have consulted the president or have any interviews being done. But what I'm aware of is that there was a date set with the Integrity Commission. The Integrity itself, members of the Integrity were not available. What, however, can also confirm is our president's availability to be subjecting himself to any investigation. So it's not like we're talking about somebody who's a fugitive to law, who has admitted that should it be anything else that need to be investigated, I'll avail myself. But however, we must indicate that it's not like there's a fear that if anything were to happen, there's a law in the African National Congress. We've got a law in the ANC. If you're criminally charged, you know that, what does it mean? You step aside from the position. It does not mean when that matter comes, which we don't foresee at any time, it means it's the end of the ANC. We've got a galaxy of leaders in the African National Congress. But we're not even there yet. We've got a leader called President Ramaphosa Cyril. At the moment, we have a confidence in his leadership. At the moment, he's not facing any charges. There are no criminal charges about him. So there shouldn't be any halubalu about that. We are confident. We have confidence, both the people of South Africa and the ANC. Should we cross a bridge where the information that is before the police is converted to evidence by NPA, not by anybody, not by any court of law, then the president, the laws of the ANC will apply. The galaxy of leaders in the ANC we have. We've been here before. Many leaders of the ANC have faced many challenges. New leaders emerge in the ANC. So this issue that the ANC, there's the obituary of the ANC that is being read in public, is neither here nor there. So the president of the ANC remains the president of the ANC. He was in G7 to talk about issues of investment, to make sure that he deals with issues of the economy. He was in meetings of the past few days dealing with the issues of load shedding, issues of ESCOM, which are a challenge in terms of economic recovery. So we are talking about somebody who in his mind is obsessed about the conditions of the country. And people of South Africa continue to look up to his leadership. The issues that he's faced with, he's not running away from those issues. The danger is we may want to undermine the institutions of state to have parallel investigation. There are investigations that are going on, whether you are talking about SARS, whether you are talking about Reserve Bank. Those investigations, I have no doubt they are going on. But why should we have a parallel investigation led by a public court of opinion? But the point again to be made, we have as the ANC, both the ANC and NEC and structures of the ANC, we have overwhelmingly expressed our confidence to the leadership of Ramaphosa. Until such time, there are issues that have been brought to the ANC that indeed the president, we may want to apply the laws of the ANC, which you know about.
Are you saying that a new date has been set for the ANC president to appear before the Integrity Commission?
When you appear before the Integrity Commission, it's like when you appear before the court. It's not information that is a public discourse. Because
Can you confirm if a new date has been set?
The Integrity Commission does not talk to everybody. It talks to a person who must appear before it. That is why we only know that it was postponed because it's him who told the NEC.
Is there a new date?
It can't be us who know about it. Should he be given a new date, we will know about it. We know the past date because when he gave a report, because he had to account on the issue, and he gave an account to the issue, a report was given both to the NWC and the NEC about the update on the issue. So it's not like you are in some wilderness about the issue. We know what are the issues, but we respect the independence of the institutions that are investigating the president.
Mr. Kodwa, the continuous blackouts in the issue of load shedding is a pronouncement that has been made by the ANC's NEC saying it's a national crisis. Does the ANC believe that Andre de Rey, the CEO of Eskom, should step down?
Our view is that we need to put all our collective effort to restore energy security in the country. The situation as it is in the country, it cannot exist parallel with economic recovery. It cannot exist parallel with foreign direct investment coming to the country. And therefore it's important that we must do everything collectively we can. If the board of Eskom is but one contributing factor or is failing to do its judicial duties, we will deal with that. That's why as the ANC we think that one of the action must be taken. We must describe and take decision that we're facing a national crisis. You can't have a country more than 2 weeks that is running on stage 6. Stage 6 basically is killing small business economics, is killing businesses, is killing households.
So are you backing the leadership of Eskom, or are you saying it should actually step down? Have you lost confidence in the leadership of Eskom?
That is not what you do first. It's not when children, maybe they are misbehaving, the first thing you do, you say you must kill the parents. It's not do that. There are certain things that you must do. In the evaluation of everything else, we have made an observation that there are certain things that we have not done over a period of time, including the issues about maintenance of Eskom power station. We have said there is information that now there are certain elements of sabotage in some of the power station. Let's deal with that and see to what an extent is also the board itself responsible. And we must do that as quick as possible because South Africans can't wait for many explanations. Otherwise, even Eskom itself will run out of excuses to explain why load shedding and stage 6.
Another issue that's been raised through the NEC statement as well is the problem of, or rather, the challenge that you're facing as a party of cadre deployment. It has also appeared numerous times during the State Capture Commission. Do you believe that this policy has been a headache for the organization?
If you do international studies, if you do your research, you'll know we don't have something called cadre deployment in the ANC. But what you know is an international phenomenon that all parties in the world, they deploy those who understand and share ideas of the party. Whether you are talking about the best developed economies in the US, when a Republican president wins, all those who are Democrats, they don't have to be told, they leave the office. Coming back home, in the Western Cape, when we left, as we were once a premiership in the Western Cape, when we left, people were left to the offices of the ANC. When we left the city of Cape Town, when we had the mayor there, when they came in, the first thing they did was to remove everybody who was in the ANC. It's in the nature of political parties that you can't deploy somebody who disagrees with your policies because you need somebody to implement your policies. So this notion that cadre deployment is neither here nor there because the DA mayor in Cape Town is a deployee of DA.
Then why are some members in the NEC saying that it's something that should be discussed? They've expressed disappointment with some of the organization's subcommittees. They're saying this policy has brought nothing but problems to the organization.
It is not a policy, it's a people you have deployed. We accept that there are people that probably there's been misalignment. We have in some instances deployed the wrong people. We have deployed the wrong mayors. We have deployed people who have become CFOs and so on. We accept that. There are people who are responsible for dysfunctionality of the institution of state, whether you're talking about SABC, whether you're talking about Daniel and so on. There are some accounts we can give to deployment itself. It's not a policy, it's the person whom we deployed. So you must make that distinction. There's nothing wrong with a deployment because it's an international phenomenon, but it's a kind of people you deployed. You can't deploy a nurse to be a pilot. You can't deploy umfundisi who only what he does is to preach, to be a pastor, to be a pilot. It's more than that. It's science involved. So these are some of these issues that we are learning as an organization, but you can't throw out the fact that we are the only organization that deploy people essentially who know the policies of the organization, because all organizations deploy people who are competent, who've got skills, and sometimes we don't deploy the best among ourselves. We deploy mayors, some of them who have disappointed the African National Congress.
Mr. Kodwa, just finally, before we let you go, it's been a long day. What do you say to growing calls for President Cyril Ramaphosa to go?
To go where?
There are calls for President Cyril Ramaphosa to go.
That, but to go where?
Perhaps you should answer that.
No, the point is that, quite on a serious note, look, I'm sure there must be foundation and a basis for that. If anybody who's been criminally charged in the ANC, there's a law of the ANC. The law of the ANC, you step aside, you sort out whatever. That is the law of the ANC. The other law of the ANC is that should you be accused of anything, you approach what is called internal mechanism, the integrity committee of the ANC. Should you be found guilty by a court of law, that is something else, you step down. It's not even step aside, you step down. Now, what are the bases for the president? For any call, he must go, he must resign. What are the bases? No charges have been made against him, because it's only the NPA that makes charges. It's only a court of law that says you are guilty. At the moment, we are dealing with nothing. So that's why I'm saying, what are the bases for all of this? Except the mounting campaign, both internally in the ANC by some elements, which we cannot dispute, but also by some counter-revolutionary elements in the country to bring stagnation in South Africa. The president is not bothered by these calls, by the way. Like I say, he was in G7 talking about issues of investment. He was, the past 2 days, he was dealing with issues of Eskom. He's worried about Eskom because an absence of energy security has got a huge impact on our economic growth. And therefore the president, all these calls, no president of the ANC is immune from all these calls. The president of the ANC, Ramaphosa, enjoys the fullest confidence of the structures of the ANC, including the people of South Africa.
Mr. Kodwa, thank you very much.
Zizi Kodwa, thank you very much indeed. Responsible for state security, speaking to us on a number of issues. Of course, we tried to speak to President Cyril Ramaphosa on the sidelines of this particular, if I may call it, a memorial, given that we had those 19 empty coffins that had been here in remembrance of those 21 young people who had passed away at the Enyobeni Tavern. And essentially, Zizi Kodwa, after the president indicated, he said, we are in mourning. He left then this particular sports ground, the Scenery Park sports ground, and he didn't answer any of our questions. And speaking to now, Zizi Kodwa, responsible for state security, we're asking him, you would recall, of course, that the ANC president, or President Cyril Ramaphosa, was due to appear before the ANC's Integrity Committee, and that was postponed. I asked him whether a new date had been set for that relating to the issues surrounding Phala. He says he does not know about a date that has been set. The president perhaps would be able to shed more light on that, but he says that he remains committed to appearing before that committee to answer questions relating to that. He also can't answer questions on whether, you would recall, there was the last statement that was issued by Arthur Fraser, which indicated that he had given more information to the Hawks pertaining to what was to be investigated at Phala. And I asked Zizi Kodwa whether he knows if the president has been or has spoken to the Hawks, given a statement to the Hawks pertaining to these allegations that are being made, and he certainly can't give any information on that. But speaking broadly on Eskom and the challenges, he also describing it as a national crisis. Well, he says that the president is unfazed by all these other issues that are taking place around him, and he's focused at this particular point on ensuring that the country moves forward. But bringing the context back to where we are here today, we know that this afternoon there are two of the deceased from the Enyobeni Tavern Tavern that will be buried today, one at Mount Coke, as well as one in an area not too far from where we are at this particular point. And essentially, we know that there are 10 other funerals that will be taking place on Saturday. There are some funerals taking place on Friday, as well as on Sunday as well. The president also describing as what took place on the 26th of June as a crime. He is calling for justice. And we also heard, as I indicated, from the health department here in the province that they are ruling out at this time, in terms of what has been gathered so far, they're ruling out the possibility that a stampede may have caused the deaths of the children. So what is being awaited at this particular time is the tests that will be coming from Cape Town, which will then indicate what the cause of death was. And I guess that will then lead to who should be held criminally liable for the deaths of these 21 children.